Hello and welcome, thanks for tuning in. It's nice to have you with us. My name is Andreas and I saw a very interesting video on Instagram in which Gyeon's Q2 leather shield, a ceramic coating for leather, was promoted in a very interesting way. There was a video sequence in which a bright white leather seat, I think it was a Tesla leather seat, was first cleaned with the cleaner by Gyeon and then protected by the ceramic coating for leather. Then they put some ketchup on there, waited 20 minutes and then wiped it away to show that there is no residue inside the leather when they used the Gyeon leather shield. This video was interesting for me for two main reasons. The one reason is that I personally think and have experienced from everything I know so far that ceramic coatings for leather are not really what the manufacturers and the brands of those products want to make you believe. That's the one thing. And the second aspect is, and I actually left a comment on that specific post and video asking them to repeat that experiment. So after the first time they applied the ketchup and wiped it away, I asked them, why don't you go ahead and clean the same leather again with the leather cleaner and then put the ketchup on it again? Because if that really is a ceramic coating for leather, then it should be rather durable, and then the repetition of that experiment should lead to the same conclusion, should lead to the same results, which I doubt personally. So until I get an answer to that suggestion for a follow-up test, I thought, why don't we repeat that experiment but add that additional step and compare it to another merely modal leather conditioner or leather protector to see if that product by Gyeon really is as magical as they want to make us believe, or if there is a flaw to that video. So let's start with that experiment. For this experiment, I got myself 3 identical leather pieces from a leather catalog, which is the Leather Dakota by BMW. Now, the experts amongst you who are really deep into leather will know that there is no such thing as identical leather pieces, because the base material, the cow skin, comes from animals which are obviously completely individual. Plus we have to consider that tanneries are not factories in which it is possible to create 100% identical leather pieces every single time. So this is a limitation of this test here, which has to be stated at the beginning of it. However, they are from the same catalogs of Dakota leather by BMW. They have the same color on it, which means they are equally built. And so it's the best possible way I could come up with a test in which I have 3, let's say, rather identical pieces of leather. But let's now start with the test and I explain to you what I will do in this video. So this experiment will work as follows. I will treat the first leather piece first with the Gyeon Leather Cleaner Mild and the Gyeon Leather Cleaning Brush, and then apply Gyeon's leather shield. On the second leather piece, I will use the Ledermax. This is an Austrian company, very specialized in leather care and treatment. The 1.0 mild leather cleaner, and then apply the Conditioner 2.0, which is a conditioner and a leather protector. I will use the cleaner in conjunction with this very mild and non-abrasive cleaning sponge. And then, because you would not believe what some viewers and some companies accuse you of if you don't use or allegedly don't use their product in the right way, when their products don't show good results or the results are not favorable, they accuse you of doing something wrong, and that's why I will use the Gyeon microfiber towel in order to remove any residue of the cleaners there. And then, after those 2 protective products had time to cure for 1 whole day, I will apply the ketchup as was done in the Instagram video on the Gyeon leather shield. We'll let the ketchup sit on those leather pieces for 20 minutes and then wipe the residue away. However, we won't stop there, because after I wiped away the first batch of ketchup, I will then go ahead and clean those two leather pieces, again with the mild leather cleaner. Why the mild leather cleaners? This is a brand new piece of leather. There has not been any dirt, wear or humans sitting on there, so the mild leather cleaner is definitely enough. But then after I cleaned those protected pieces for the second time, I will reapply the Ledermax Conditioner 2.0 on this piece, but I won't reapply the Gyeon Leather Shield on that piece. Why? Because Ledermax actually recommends to regularly clean the leather and then reapply the conditioner, whereas Gyeon wants to make you believe that that is some sort of a long-term protection and ceramic coating which lasts up to 1 year. And Gyeon does not recommend to reapply the Gyeon Leather Shield after every cleaning cycle. And after this second cleaning cycle, I will reapply the Ketchup, and then we will have a look at how those leather pieces, those protected leather pieces, behave. The third leather piece will be our control section, where I won't apply anything, and will also put the Ketchup on to see how an unprotected piece of leather reacts to it. That's how I will conduct this test. So both leather sealants or protectors or coatings that we applied had 1 whole day to fully cure. And before we start with the actual test that I promised you to do in this video, I wanted to state something because I think that already gives us some hints on why leather coatings may or may not be sensible to use on leather. If I feel the surfaces, then I have to say the untreated leather feels soft and non-slippy. The piece I conditioned with the Conditioner 2.0 by Ledermax is as unslippy, so there's no increase in slickness, but, and that's really interesting and that boggles me and that I don't understand how they do it. It feels softer than the original leather. That already is very interesting. And in stark contrast to that, the piece I treated with the Gyeon Leather Shield feels, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't feel as soft and it definitely feels slicker. There is an increase in slickness. And if I have a close look at those two pieces, I also think that the Gyeon Leather Shield increased the gloss of it. However, we will have a closer look at that claim in a few minutes. So I already have the feeling that that is not what I personally want from leather. I don't want it to be shiny. I don't want it to be slippery. I don't want it to feel harder than what the leather originally was. But those are only side remarks because we now start with the actual test, and for that I grab myself the Ketchup and we will now see what happens. Now before we start with the actual Ketchup test, there's one additional thing I wanted to show to you. I have here a syringe with just water in it, and I will now place small droplets of water on each of those 3 leather pieces. We start with the untreated one. I will just place them there, and you can now observe that the water creates not very pronounced and round beads because it slowly starts to sink into the porous leather surface. Now in contrast, we have here the piece I treated with the Gyeon Leather Shield. Yeah. There is a round one, there's a round one. That looks good, that too, that too. And so we see there is a form of hydrophobics that was created. However, we already see with this bead there that it doesn't seem to be uniformous on the whole surface. And we here have the leather piece where we used a mere leather conditioner or leather protection. But look at it. It also creates some rather impressive and whoa, and really nice beads partially up there. So that's already one hint, and a first hint that those products are not, or they seem to not be, the wonder products that the manufacturers want to make us believe. But that's only a side story, because we will now start with the actual test, and I will place Heinz tomato ketchup on each of those 3 leather pieces. We will wait 20 minutes and then I'll try to just wipe it away. All right, 20 minutes are over, so we will now have a look what the results of this ketchup experiment are. Interesting, isn't it? Because we clearly saw that the video I saw on Instagram, maybe you saw it too, was right in that respect that a leather piece or a leather seat, a leather steering wheel that is protected with the Gyeon leather shield does prevent ketchup from sinking into it and leaving stains. But we also saw that a mere model leather conditioner or protector does exactly the same thing. Worst of all, we also saw that an untreated, unprotected leather piece also does not leave any stains behind. And I know the following phrase is brutal, it's direct, it's honest, and it is aggressive. However, without a reference test section, such videos and such tests are useless. They are worthless. Because we clearly saw what happened here. If an uneducated viewer, a consumer, sees that video in which the leather shield is applied, then the ketchup is put on there, and then it's wiped away without leaving any stains, this consumer thinks, wow, I have to have this product to protect my leather. If the same video was done in a way where only a section of the leather was protected with the Gyeon, the other side wasn't, the ketchup would have been applied to both sections and then wiped away, and then we would see that both sections look exactly the same. Then a consumer would think, well, what's the point of this product if the protected and unprotected piece look the same? And that's unfortunately something we see so often and so many times in car care and in advertising for car care products. It's unfair to you, it's unfair to the viewers, it's unfair to the consumers. And I repeat it, without a reference section where we don't apply a product, such videos are worthless. And they are actually not fair for you, the consumer, in my personal opinion. So, we saw what happened there, but the test is not over yet. Because what we will now do is, I will clean this leather piece here with the Gyeon Leather Cleaner Mild and the leather cleaning brush by Gyeon, because that's what Gyeon recommends. And I will then not reapply the Gyeon leather shield, because Gyeon tells us that this is some sort of a long-lasting protection and ceramic coating for the leather. I will also clean this piece here with the Ledermax the Cleaner 1.0 and the sponge. And then I'll reapply the Conditioner 2.0, because that's what this manufacturer recommends. I will also clean this leather piece here, but I will not reapply anything. Then we will again drop some water droplets on there to see what changed or how the leather pieces behave. And then we will repeat the ketchup test and see what happens. Alright, the second part of the test is prepared, cleaned, and the protective product not reapplied, cleaned on a piece on which there was no protection to begin with, and then cleaned and protection reapplied. as the manufacturers recommend. And I will now grab myself the syringe again with the water in it, and we will drop the water droplets on there, and then let's see what happens. As you can see, the droplets are flat again on the untreated leather. However, you also see that they are almost as flat on the part where we applied the Gyeon leather shield. And on the side where we freshly reapplied the conditioner, they are still rather tall. As you just saw, one cleaning cycle with the mild leather cleaner from the same manufacturer and the leather brush. I mean, you saw the video. I barely touched it with the brush, and I went over it maybe 5 or 6 times, so it was a very, very light and mild cleaning cycle. However, this one cleaning cycle was enough to, how can we say it? I would say at the very least damage the protective properties from the Gyeon leather shield. I actually and personally think we pretty much removed what was on there. And that is already a hint to what I was telling you in the beginning of this video, that I personally don't think that ceramic coatings for leather are what those manufacturers want to make us believe. But the test is now prepared and we can reapply the ketchup. This time I let the ketchup there for 30 minutes and we will now have a look if it changed something. So, as you just saw, exactly the same results as before. Now, there's one exception to the rules that I just presented to you, which is on older leather, where the top coat may be already damaged, we would have seen probably different results, but only in the respect that on the untreated leather, we would have seen stains, most likely, but we would not have seen differences between the supposed ceramic coating for leather and a proper leather protector. And just to be clear, and to prevent comments like that this was a special form of ketchup, the ketchup stained the microfiber towel, because I washed this one and it is still, as you can see, red. So ketchup can actually stain materials such as this or leather, but not comparably new automotive leather. The beautiful thing about using leather test patches is that we can now simulate exactly that factor, which is what happens if we repeat the same test with a not new and already damaged leather. That is a simulation of a leather that has been cleaned the wrong way, has been used and has a damaged top coat on it. What I will do now is I will separate those two leather pieces in half. I will then use a magic eraser or a magic sponge, which is an abrasive tool. It is the equivalent of, let's say, a 3000 to 4000 grit sandpaper. And on one half of the leather patches, I will therefore damage or even completely remove the top coat, maybe even the base coat. And then we have the simulation of a damaged leather. And then we can repeat the whole test. So not even with a damaged or weakened top coat. I mean, you saw the pictures from when I used the magic sponge on these leather pieces. There was color in there. So we at the very least damaged, if not even removed, the top coat of the leather and are down to the base layer. And not even on those patches of leather with that level of preparation, we saw some sort of color or dye migration from the ketchup. Not even on the unprotected leather. Now, to be perfectly honest, I was a bit confused by those results. That's why I contacted Herwig Grabner, an Austrian leather expert who worked for years and years and years at the world's leading tanneries and still works with them on a consulting basis. So he's the maker of that product, to be perfectly honest and to be perfectly transparent about that. And he explained something to me, which, when you know that, puts the whole video and the whole test of the Gyeon leather shield into a different perspective. Now, tanneries work in close relationships with car manufacturers. And car manufacturers, because they face increasing demands by us, by the consumers, they put that pressure that they receive down to the tanneries, which of course supply the leather for the cars. And in that respect, there actually is something that is called ketchup test. Car leather, when it is manufactured, needs to pass a ketchup test, which means they put ketchup on a piece of leather, and for a certain defined amount of time, the leather has to withstand the ketchup or the dye or color migration from ketchup on itself without any protection. And if you know that, we clearly have to conclude that the video about the Gyeon leather shield is absolute nonsense and bullshit, because the leather on itself, as I have now proven, can withstand ketchup for a certain amount of time, and certainly for 20 minutes, as was shown in the video. What I will now do is the following. I mean, I already weakened the top coat on those leather pieces on the upper half, so I will now clean those leather pieces again. I will reapply the ceramic coating by Gyeon, the protector by Ledermax, and the middle piece is, as always, unprotected. I will put the ketchup on it again, and then I will let it sit for a whole day, maybe even 2 days, and then we will see how much color or dye from the ketchup. Maybe that's a natural form of color or dye, maybe it is added to the ketchup, how that dye migration looks after 2 days. Honestly, with those results, I don't know what else I can tell you. You clearly saw that on none of those three pieces, be it protected or unprotected, on the side where the top coat was intact, on the side where we damaged the top coat with the magic sponge, none of those pieces showed any sort of dye transfer, discoloration or damage from the ketchup, despite the fact that the ketchup sat on there for 2 whole days. It's very interesting, isn't it? The only damage I saw was when I applied the ketchup to the back side of the leather. So the meat side, where there are no additional layers there, which is the foundational layer, the base coat and the top coat, which protects the leather from stuff like ketchup. It is a standard that the automotive leather industry has to fulfill. There, on the unprotected leather, we see there is a stain. The leather has also become rather hard, and you also saw there's a dimple in the leather. So we see a damage there, but not on the front side of the leather. And with those results, I think every one of you can now judge for him or herself how reasonable the original video by Gyeon was. Now, you could be forgiven to come up with the conclusion that maybe the Gyeon leather shield is not what the manufacturer wants to make you believe. Maybe it's just this product. And that's why I did a parallel test during the first one, where I applied the Diamond Protech Diamond Leather as well as the ServFaces Leather Ultima. So ceramic coatings for leather by two companies with a rather good reputation, at least in Central Europe. I did that on 2 additional leather pieces. I will show you the pictures now. And I have to tell you, I had exactly the same results, which is rather varyingly. However, in order for you not having to trust me when I just tell you this, despite the pictures I just showed you, I prepared an additional piece of leather. This is original black leather from Porsche, on which I applied all of those 4 products. The 3 ceramic coatings by Gyeon, by Diamond Protech and ServFaces, as well as the Conditioner 2.0 by Ledermax. And we will now have a look at this piece of leather in terms of the finish that those products created, as well as a repetition of the test with the water droplets. We will then clean the surface once and then redo the test with the water in order to see what's what. We start with the finish that those 4 products created, and we see a clear trend, which is the Diamond Protech as well as the Ledermax Conditioner 2.0 didn't change the finish by, I would say, much. I would actually say that the Ledermax did the least amount of change there, followed closely by the Diamond Protech. However, the ServFaces and the Gyeon did a rather significant change there. They made the leather darker and also slightly shinier, I would say, which I personally think is not something you necessarily want to see on leather, because on leather you want to keep the original OEM factory finish, which is matte, as long as possible. And yeah, that's one issue with those 2 coatings. And then there's a second issue. I can tell you from the application, it is much harder with those 3 products to create a uniform finish, because they feel rather sticky when you apply them, and it's much easier to use this product here. But what we mainly wanted to do is see how the hydrophobics of the leather surface changed. I prepared the syringe again, and we will now apply the water droplets. And as you can see, the areas where we didn't apply any protective product are very flat in terms of the water beads, and the water slowly starts to sink into the leather. Whereas all 4 areas where we applied the sealants or coatings show some form of hydrophobics. I would say the Diamond Protech shows rather pronounced beads, as well as the ServFaces. However, the conditioner here, the leather protector, also shows pronounced beading, and all of those 3 products are in front, slightly in front of the Gyeon leather shield. So let's now go through one cleaning cycle of this whole area here. As a reminder, all of those 3 products are products where the manufacturers promise you that they will last at least 1 year, if not several years. And the manufacturers don't tell you to reapply them after every cleaning cycle. I will now use the Gyeon Leather Cleaner Mild in conjunction with the Ledermax Sponge. So I will use the mildest possible form of cleaning, although I have my doubts that this really is a exceptionally mild cleaner, but that put aside. That will be 1 cleaning cycle with the mildest possible form of abrasion, a soft sponge. And after that, we will see how the surface behaves in terms of the hydrophobics. One very interesting observation, because after this one cleaning cycle, we can see that the change that we saw before is still visible here on the patch where we applied the Gyeon, the ServFaces, and also the Diamond Protech, as you can clearly see in the right angle. But the change that we saw from the Ledermax conditioner is gone. This means that either the conditioner was the only product that was removed by this one cleaning cycle, or that these products created a change in the leather surface. We will see soon. However, one important side note. These manufacturers want to make you believe that those are some form of ceramic coating for leather. If we apply a true ceramic coating with those small suede towels, what happens with them? They become hard and inflexible. This is the towel with which I applied the Diamond Protech. As you can see, it's still flexible. There's nothing that hardened in there. Then we have the towel I applied the ServFaces with, also flexible, nothing hardened in there. And then we have the towel I applied the Gyeon with, also flexible, nothing hardened. This is another hint that maybe those products are not what the manufacturers want to make us believe. And as you can see now, we have exactly the same water behavior, independent of the fact that we applied a sealant or a coating or we didn't. Because there on the untreated surfaces we have flat water beads, as we have on every single of the 4 test sections. However, if I now want to wipe away the water residue, look at how the rectangle where I applied the Gyeon and the ServFaces product is still clearly visible. And this is an absolutely critical and vital point I want to get across in this video. We clearly saw that the hydrophobic effect that was initially there after I applied all those 4 products was gone after one cleaning cycle, and it was completely gone. So this means that the change in the finish of the leather surface we see there is permanent. And that means that the change in the finish of the surface that is permanent does not come from the product that is sitting on there. It does come from a change in the leather surface. So at the very least, the top coat, if not even the base coat. And to be perfectly honest and to be blunt about it, I personally think that this change in the leather surface is a damage. It is a irreversible damage that these products did to the leather surface. Why? Because as long as those products sit on the surface, you could argue that yes, there is some form of protection on them. However, once this protection is gone, and we clearly showed that after one cleaning cycle it is gone, and in your car you will have the abrasion from getting in and out of the car, sitting in your seats, grabbing the steering wheel, for example. These products will wear off over time. And once they have weared off, you are left with a changed surface. I would go as far as saying that this is a damaged surface. Why is that? If those products are something similar as ceramic coatings for the outside of your car, so the clear coat, then it has to be that there are some form of solids in there which are dissolved in a rather aggressive solvent. And if those products come with rather aggressive solvents, I can tell you they don't smell that nice, then these solvents will, at the very least, change or damage or completely remove the leather's top coat. That's a fact. If those products are not the same as ceramic coatings for the outside of your car, we have to conclude that they are not that far away from a traditional leather protector. And that's the simple, maybe for some of you, shocking truth about them. We clearly saw that none of those applicator towels I used is or has become hard. They are all flexible. So at the end of the day, these are products which are not the same as ceramic coatings for the outside of your car. However, they are still aggressive enough in terms of their solvent content to create a permanent change in the leather surface. And that was what I always said about ceramic coatings for leather. They are not what the manufacturers want to make you believe. They are not super hard wearing ceramic coatings as on the outside of your car. They are hardly anything different than a very good leather protector. And therefore, the main question is, what's the point of those products? I personally think there is no point in these products, and to be brutal and direct and honest and aggressive with my main message of this video, I personally think that you as consumers are being frauded, because every single one of them calls those products coatings, ceramic coatings, shields, or anything similar like that. And the simple fact of the matter and the truth is they are not even close to anything like it. Now, just to be clear, I have absolutely nothing against promoting and marketing products, because at the end of the day, it is the marketing department's job to make those products look good, to show you their properties in a favorable way. However, it needs to stay fair for you, for the consumer and the viewer. And that video by Gyeon, I personally have to say that was not a fair video. At the very least, they should have shown a reference section on which there was no protection applied. However, we clearly saw, and I showed you in this video, that also a mere modal leather protector, leather conditioner can do exactly the same thing. More importantly, I showed you that the automotive leather care industry has to fulfill standards, amongst many, that the leather does not get stained by ketchup. So an unprotected leather is already safe from ketchup stains, at least after 20 minutes, as was shown in this video here. If Gyeon would have done this properly, they would have left the ketchup there for 2 weeks, maybe even 2 months, and they would have included a reference section so that we as consumers have a clear picture of what this product can do. The video as it is and as it was shown, in my personal opinion, was not fair. And I think the reason why I'm so disappointed in this video is that I like Gyeon. Their current ceramic coatings from the Evo line are fantastic. I actually think that Gyeon Mohs Evo is amongst the best ceramic coatings consumers and professionals can buy and use currently. I also think that Gyeon Iron is amongst the best iron removers. There are a lot of products by Gyeon that I like. I love the design. I think Gyeon has amongst, if not the best product design in the industry. And I think the reason why I'm so disappointed in this video by Gyeon is that I don't think that the standards that Gyeon sets for itself were met in this video. I mean, let's put my personal opinion to the side and everything I just said. Let's forget about that and just consider the facts. I showed you that those products create a permanent change in the surface of your car. I showed you that they are not as easy and straightforward to apply in terms of leaving a uniform and nice finish. Some of them create gloss, some of them create a slippery surface. None of them were able to protect the leather surface better than let's say a traditional conditioner or leather protector, although I think this is a rather special product, but let's put that aside. None of them protects leather better from ketchup than this one or an untreated surface. Because the fact of the matter is, new leather comes with a top coat that is rather capable and doesn't really need that sort of protection. And those are the facts which I clearly showed you. And I mean, you realize probably that I'm rather emotional about this. And the reason for that is that that video on Instagram that I spoke to you in the beginning of this video is an absolutely traditional and classic example of how you as consumers are being, I wouldn't say lied to, but you are manipulated in a way that you think or you start to believe that those are wonder products, when the simple fact of the matter is they aren't. They aren't. They can't do anything better than traditional or, let's say, very good leather protectors. Quite the opposite actually. I think they are actually, and in the long term, damaging to your leather. And with that conclusion, I think I want to end this video. If the video was interesting for you, leave us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.